through my window pane. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup is a whisper. Conversations open door. Spilling thoughts forevermore. Ideas bubble crisp and bright. Words take flight in morning light. Consult the heart, make it sing. New perspectives on each wing. Another cup of cheer. Every thought becomes so clear. From sea tunes and bubbling streams, waking up to brand new dreams. Coffee chats with Melissa. Every cup is a whisper.
Good morning, guys. Oh, listen, technology is not my friend this morning. For some reason, all of a sudden, LinkedIn was not remembered by StreamYard. It was like, hey, no, we can't go there. You're going to have to repost. And so hopefully you found us. I see that Jackie did, and I don't know if that's just by, habit or if it's working. So good morning, guys. But I got to tell you, it's frozen in the Pacific Northwest this morning. When I woke up, it was a nice and cozy 52 degrees outside. And so I have a lap blanket on in the middle of June, and it feels a little silly until you get on my memories. And it's kind of a habit up here. Mid-June, we still get cool weather, and I love it. So there's that. I don't know how the weather is for you today, but I do hear it's going to be a busy day out there. People are going to be outside. So bundle up if it's chilly. Put on the sunblock if it's not. Be kind to your friends. Take extra water. Um, Today's the day, right? And I got to tell you, sometimes I think this title just aligns so well, and it wasn't intentional by any means. This aligned in my life, which is why I wanted to cover the topic today. Um, sometimes when you win, you lose. And it sounds silly for a coach to say that. And I know that because I often talk about winning and how to get there and success and all this stuff. But it doesn't come cheap. It comes with a cost quite often. And I got to tell you, I've been feeling it lately, good and bad, growth, pains. Like, I don't know if you guys remember being a kid when you were growing up, but I had the worst leg cramps. They usually came at about 5 o'clock and they would hit me until probably 9 o'clock. And it just felt like my legs could not move. They hurt so bad and they called it growing pains. And I just remember feeling like growing sucked. It wasn't easy. It wasn't something I was enjoying. And so to be honest with you, I thought about those moments where growth doesn't always feel so good, where a win doesn't always feel like a win. And I thought, maybe I'm not the only person who feels these things, and maybe we should talk about it. And why not? Right. So, good morning. We are here, Jackie. I love that you went and found me. I put some comments on the original post that's out there. It looks like we have two going on right now. Magic of technology. It works when it wants to work and it doesn't when it doesn't. And that's just like it actually shows me that I'm live in two spaces online right now. So I'm just killing it. Here we are. Listen, I am Melissa Houston, cultivator of dreams, motivator of human capital. And what that means is I help people like you figure out what they want to be when they grow up, get a plan of action together to get it done, and then give you some accountability along the way. And that looks different for everybody. Sometimes that means I'm helping you with your branding and your marketing and your messaging. Sometimes that means we're doing something cool with your LinkedIn profile. And sometimes you just need somebody with recruiting experience to review your resume and tell you what I'm learning based on what I'm reading. Also, I speak from time to time. I don't know if you know this about me, but I like to open my mouth and engage the masses with whatever falls out of my brain. And that is a variety of topics. I know that I saw Jackie down there. We talked about Jackie. She is a friend of mine who does some speaking also, and we have been planning to grow and do some things together. And so we're talking about the books that we have done together, right? And I'm going to pop this up real quick. I don't know if you guys know, but I am a co-author, a two-time best-selling, internationally best-selling co-author. I came together with a couple of my friends on LinkedIn and my publisher, Nick. You got to go find her, the Gifted Bipolar Writer. And we shared our journey, our story about being on a professional networking platform and how we showed up with one intention and stayed for more, right? And did things. And there's 3 books in this trilogy of People First professional networking platform. Go check them out. They're on Amazon. They're fantastic. If I do say so myself. I've read all 3. I'm only in one, and I still think all 3 are great. So go check them out. Also, a message to my family. I am here, and you are my legacy. I I wrote in this, and I shared my why, my reason, my motivation for being here every day and doing what I do. And so go check that out. Also, Arizona, we're coming. The Emotional Women will be in town. So if you want us to come talk to your team about emotional intelligence, communication, dealing with the stuff that comes up in an office place and how to kind of work together to get through it all, maybe you're in charge of a nonprofit or some kind of service that helps the community in some way. If we could be supportive, she was in the books. We can come talk about our books. There's a lot we can do. Please reach out. We got stuff coming, but we are offering a special communication event while we're there. So please reach out about that. Okay, now let's get back to it, right? We're going to get into the topic at hand. If you want to learn more about me, go to documentadact.com because it's time to start the show. So sometimes when you win, you lose. What the heck does that even mean, right? If you have some ideas of what that means to you, I would love to hear it. Please don't hesitate to drop your comments there in the comment section. But for me, when I was thinking about this topic, it came up recently, most recently, because of a promotion. Now, it's not my promotion. It is a promotion of somebody who's going to be leaving a store that I run. In my day job, I am a retail manager, I am quote unquote taking a break, right? Like I said, I'm taking a break in this environment, slowing down to speed up, taking my time to rest because I have been an operations person at the top, running the businesses for business owners, being the person to launch startups with business owners, and being every facet of every business in some way, shape, or form for my clients. And it's been a nonstop push, hustle, run, grind. It is a business, right? And being in business for yourself is hard. Being in business for yourself in the business of being in somebody else's business, right? Like I am paid to be your business with you. Somehow, some way, we are going to align to make me part of who you are for a while until you get off the ground. And that's a lot, guys. You do that, you're adding kids. I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I'm coming up on many, many, many years here. We're coming up on our 18th year. And when I think about the journey of being an entrepreneur and starting out on my own in 2015, solely being responsible for my own financial stability then, it was a grind. It was. And for 8 years, it was a very successful grind. I was doing all the things I wanted to, making pretty good money. It didn't happen immediately, but it did kind of. I had stability from the get go. I planned accordingly. Um, I knew, and I made it work. But 8 years in, life changed. My client passed away, and it felt different. Now, that would have been heavy enough, and you guys who have been following know the story. But on top of that, my mother also passed away 30 days prior to my client passing. And so it was loss, loss, lots of loss. And I was tired, and I took a break. I took a break by going into business with somebody else and starting a new startup. And that wasn't successful. Things just didn't align. We were so close. So it was like right there at the finish. But we lost. We lost that race. And I was like, man, I can't do another loss right now. I don't want to keep pouring into these things when I know I'm grieving, right? And it was something I had to be accountable for. While I was very successful in my business, once loss hit me, I didn't feel successful and I started to feel it in other ways, right? Things rippled, it did. And there's a lot to it. I'm not saying I was responsible for failures. That's not it. But I know I was struggling to be the person I had been, if that makes sense, right? So, full accountability, full transparency. It was rough. So, here I am now in a rest phase where I let a few layers above me run the show, right? And I say let, but they let me into their corporation. It's a gift to sit and worry about just a few people at a time, one location at a time, not 3,000 plus counties. I mean, guys, it's a break. So, that said, I have been focusing on a smaller goal for business, focusing on four walls, not all the walls. And I've been able to develop a really good team. Blessed, even, I would say. They're fantastic. They're friends. They say don't be friends with people you work with. I say it's impossible if you genuinely care about who you work with not to become friends. There might be layers to the friendship, and I don't know if you're going to invite them everywhere you go, but I know I've been invited to pretty much every wedding or baby shower that my coworkers had, right? And so when you think about those things, I don't think I'm alone in that thought. My assistant thrived. She came in, she was a silver bullet right to the top. She found success. She has been in the top 10 in the nation since she started with the company. She has consistently shown me time and again how phenomenal she can be when she has focus, right? And she's just passionate, guys. It's a fun job to be in if you like motorcycles and she rides. And I'm not going to tell you too much about her because it is her story to tell, but it's part of my story, right? And so that's where we are. She has been promoted 3 times by me in just over a year. And now she is moving on again to another promotional opportunity, bigger store, lots more volume, lots more opportunity for her. Now, she won this. She won, right? She took action and she got busy and it worked. Now, that's a loss for me. And I was thinking about this week because as much as I am so proud of her and I want all of this for her, and I may have helped facilitate all of the work behind the scenes to get it done so she could move forward, right? She put in the work to get there. And so that win, her multiple wins, time and again, is my loss. That's the premise of the show. So when I started thinking about how sometimes wins create losses, right? There is a ripple. Even a successful elementary school teacher loses students because they successfully won the opportunity to move to the next grade. That's kind of neat, right? It's neat and it hurts. It's not fun. And every time I said goodbye to a teacher, I knew it was hard. I could only imagine back then what it was for teachers. And then as I got older, as I talked to teachers more openly about it, as I contemplated becoming an educator, as I've coached educators and had children of my own, to tell them I support you. Call me anytime for Starbucks. We have it on speed dial. We can do that for you. Let me know. It occurred to me lots of leaders lose when we win. Have you ever been in a situation where you lost because of success? And it doesn't have to be like a negative loss, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, I've lost everything I've ever loved, but it could be like, oh no, they're moving away, right? When I think about different things that create change, when I was thinking about different ways, different seasons, different reasons for shifts, things that are on the screen popped up. Things that came to mind for me were education, right? The school, like I said, educators who promote us upward. We lose our friends from that grade. We lose our classmates. Guys, quick side note, if you've been following, I have had this little hummingbird visiting me every show this week, or for the past few weeks, actually, and it's here again. And I just wanted to say, hi, little bird. So the school, right? We transition a lot through classes and we do it year after year. We also, in sports teams, right? We have seasonal shifts in sports. So you might be on a softball team this year, a baseball team, football team, but next year the team will evolve. It will be different because grades shift, people move. And when I think about why people move, military came to mind. How many times have you been in a squadron? And I'm not everybody's military, right? But how many people do you know who have been enlisted or in the military who had to shift bases? They shifted commands, they moved around, they had different jobs, right? Season shift, birds migrate, nature does this thing all the time. And then families. We get married, we come together, friendships. We have lots of friends, death, right? I didn't want to put that on the screen, but there's a lot of reasons and seasons and shifts. And when you think about it, they're not all bad, right? To play on the minor leagues and then have to leave your team that won the minor league season to go to the major leagues is a win, even if it's a loss. And guys, thank you for finding me. I'm going to say hi, Erin. Yes, I actually messaged you to let you know when I came into StreamYard today. It said, hey, LinkedIn not connected anymore. Delete it if you want to go live. And I was like, oh, okay. Then I did, and it didn't actually delete it on LinkedIn. And so then I went and looked, and it said I was live on two different scenarios, or two different. Yeah, hey, we're here. Shifts. It moves with and without our permission. We are live though, and it's recorded, and we can do playback, and that's awesome. If you are not following me on YouTube, this is the time. Yeah, on LinkedIn, I dropped them on all of my events that were posted today to make sure you can find it. But I see Nick. I love this. She is over on YouTube. You can tell by that little red box right by that. Okay, so we've been talking about it, guys. Sometimes when we win, we lose, and we're talking about the different shifts that come. And really, I mean, how many of these do you align with, guys? I know there's a little bit of a delay of the time I finish talking and when you guys are hearing me, but think about those times where you've lost friends because you've moved. Maybe your junior high group didn't all go to the same high school later, right? Maybe military, have you ever done that? Have you ever been successful in your job and you got promoted to a new location? Right? Same as my assistant. Another state, another district, another country. There are some jobs out there who will promote you to a headquarters that isn't even where you are now if you grow further, like farther, far enough. I'm going to get some water here. I want you guys to help me out though. What are times that you can think of where winning made you lose something, right? And I moved a lot as a kid. In elementary school, I went to tons of schools, and actually, that is kind of on a short to-do list for me when I go to Arizona with Jackie. Is I want to reach out to my elementary school, my school district, to see if I can go to the administration office and get a copy of my records, because I would love to see if I could count how many schools I actually attended. It was quite a few. It means I have a vast amount of friends. I've always been kind of memorable. If believe it or not, I talk a lot. Did you know that about me? Hold on, I'm gonna get some more. Okay, so I would make friends and I have a ton of them, but I shifted a lot. That said, that loss of moving a lot has created a win for me because I now have a group of friends that is about 1,400 people deep on Facebook. That's all alumni from the city that I grew up. That's a win, right? Just because we shifted doesn't mean we lost connection. And that's something else I want to bullet point real quick. Not all losses, right? These reference points that I'm giving you right now mean forever. Just because you're not on the same football team anymore doesn't mean you're not in the same NFL league. It doesn't mean you won't see each other on the field again. Same thing with the high school. Maybe you won't see your best friend from football on the field on your team, but I bet you're probably in the same district to still play against each other, most likely. Maybe you still hang out at the same parks after school and practice together. What feels like a loss doesn't always have to be a loss. And that is a perspective I wanted to make sure we bring, right? Because it does feel like a loss. It does. When I was thinking about losing the assistant I've trained, the person who has made my life so much easier now that she knows me, she knows the job, she knows the store, she knows the team, she knows the customers, right? There's all of these things that she knows that I am losing when she goes. I feel like Dr. Seuss. Sorry, guys. um, but at the same time, I gained additional time with her by phone yesterday when we spoke over her break to assess how the day was going and what things are happening. We have plans to go to the beach and go look for cool little rocks and just kind of hang out together and make memories. We didn't really do a ton of that outside of work because she worked when I wasn't and vice versa. And that was a loss for us. As close as we were always on opposite shifts. Now, her win, our loss in the store, is a win for a friendship perspective. And I want you guys to remember that just because you're moving doesn't mean it's over, right? Sometimes our behaviors create that, oh my gosh, you're shifting a little bit. Let's just pop it. Let's burst it off. Action does create change. That's a fact. But what kind of change it creates is really up to us. Because if we start moving in a direction we're not happy with, we can shift it. If we decide, hey, I really want to go down trail A, and we start going, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, a spider web. Ooh, yeah, look, there's lots of poison oak down here and spiders. And ew, what are those eyeballs in the dark corner over? Maybe I want to go back to trail B. Can we go back? That's allowed, right? Even if even if you're winning, even if you're the first one up the trail, even if you think, if I just go a little faster, I'm going to win the trophy. If you're not assessing as you go, those gut feelings, those new things you're bringing into your realm as you're moving forward, it can be a different kind of loss. Think about the shifts. I was thinking about different career shifts, right? There's a lot of ways that we grow within ourselves. Just because you have one job when you start out doesn't mean you stay with that job. You can wear many hats, so to speak, right? Um, I look at this picture and I really think about the Venn diagram, the who, what, where, when, whys we do in our coaching sessions, and kind of like who makes you you, what makes it you you, all of that stuff. And I saw this image, and I'll be honest, I didn't create the circle part, right? I made it pop a little bit with my bubble behind it, but somebody else had created this lady in all these variations, and I loved it. Because truth be told, could you be all of those things? Absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe you do like to, maybe you're a police officer by trade, but maybe you also like art when you're off your shift. You like to go paint. Maybe you're also certified as a medic because, hello, police officer, first responder. Maybe you could do some life-saving things. Maybe you were a medic first. Maybe you were an EMT. Maybe you were a nurse and decided, wow, all of these police who come in with all of these things, I want to go help them, right? There's transition. Who knows? Maybe that's in your pocket. I can't tell what the bottom is. I want to say it looks like a little army suit too, like a little tin soldier ready to joust. I don't know. Maybe there's some military experience there. I don't know what that is. If you guys can see it better than me, let me know. But different outfit, different job. Cool. You got a business suit. Maybe you did something sales. Maybe you worked in corporate. Maybe you had a customer service job and you had to be presentable at the front desk. And maybe you cook. Maybe you have a catering company on the side. Maybe you hosted the barbecue for the police department and you decided, like Melissa, that you love hosting community events and feeding the masses. And all of a sudden, you just want to do it as a side hustle for friends who have events. Not everybody, but if your friends need catering done, they can call you. Shifts, right? What that looks like for you is you. Do you have to lose any facet of this to move forward? Do you have to pop the bubbles of the bubbles around this, right? Like, let's move circle to circle. Every time I stand in a new circle, I would be surrounded by more circles, right? If I'm a police officer, I have a squad, I have a team, I'm surrounded by people in my office, in my business, in my world. Same with my artist friends, maybe the best friend at the paint store, right? Maybe I'm good friends with Bob Ross. Maybe he's my inspiration. Who knows, right? Different circles, different things. Do I have to lose them just because I moved to it over to the cooking side of myself? No. And honestly, guys, I see this happen so much where people expect if you to do that. Like you can't have the same friends. You're not with them anymore. Why do you still go hang out with people from 20 years ago? Well, why not? They're still my friends. Why do I have to give them up? And sometimes it feels like that, right? I've seen a lot of stories of people who become famous and they have to give up their team. Um, the groups that somebody goes solo and they have to give up the group to go solo. The other thing I will say that I've noticed is sometimes when we win, we actually lose our focus. This is the part that I think I wanted to highlight the most, and a lot of people don't even contemplate it. But if you've won the Super Bowl, will you have the same motivation to return and do it again? If you've lost that winning team, the one that captured the trophy, the crown, the whatever it is, right? That thing, and then it's that fire, that passion to get it done is gone. What happens next? How do you get it back? Do you have it? Right. And I think this part for me was the hardest part of winning is because once I've checked the box, it does get harder to repeat it. And so I have to constantly assess what makes me want to dive back in, to refocus on recommitting to the same goal, right? How do I win a Super Bowl year after year? I have to regain focus. Like, yes, you're a winner, but that was yesterday's news. Like, celebrate today, but the next day, like, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, do the Disney thing, whatever it is, right? Like, um, as a coach, how long would I give you to rest? I'd give you a little bit. Go celebrate your win. Go enjoy that moment. But next season's coming. So don't sit too long and don't forget to work out and make sure you're hydrating and make sure you're stretching and make sure you're putting in your reps at the gym. Just because we're not on the field doesn't mean you're not working on yourself still. You can rest, but don't rest in stillness, right? And that's something else. How do you keep yourself motivated? So for me, how am I going to keep myself motivated? Well, guys, listen, I'm number 4 in the nation as a store manager right now. That's the rank, and it's based on my key performance indicators, my KPIs, right? And it's the things that make businesses grow. And as a business coach, I already knew that. So I focused on the things I knew were going to help the business be successful. It was a secret I had in my pocket. It was success from before that I pulled out when I showed up at this organization. Then I taught it to the next person, showed them my secrets. They replicated it. They're getting promoted. They're moving on to their success. And now I have a new team to replicate it with. Even in my annual review, the only thing my boss said was do it again, like create another assistant just like that one. That was my goal for the year. So the reason I'm here in this organization had to be assessed this week too, right? This last month or so. While I am having shifts within the organization, I assess where I am. It makes sense. Hey, things are moving. Figure out where you stand while things move. If your bubble's floating around, as a bubble, you got to anchor in sometimes. Even bubbles have to have some kind of focus. And so I try to go with the flow, float around, change with the seasons, right? Success is not losing your cool when everything is spinning. Just anchor into what success means to you. And so I rest on success. I really do, guys. This is kind of something that was in my brain and I wanted to visualize it with you. And it really is that thing where I can be spinning a million plates. I could have all of this happening. It's all about the overlap, right? But I assess when things change. Every time I get new data, I assess. It's like being on the road. You're driving, you're fine. You're in the middle lane, you're on the freeway. You got cars going by you at all times. But as soon as you see a light start blinking at you, as soon as you see a new car color start drifting into your view, you're reassessing, right? Same kind of situation. And if you don't think that's happening, try to go to the grocery store without assessing the things that move around you. You're going to run into somebody. You're going to hurt somebody accidentally because you're not paying attention. And sometimes when we find success, we get lazy. And truth be told, we've seen it in examples like a lottery win. If I only get this ticket to pay me one time, everything will be different. And then they find it and they don't reassess and they lose it because they never changed the behaviors that kept them needing the additional income in the first place. When I think about my organization shifting, I was talking with my boss, right? Like, what is the plan? There is some part of Melissa that really just wants to grow within this organization right to the top. I don't want to be the leader. I don't want to do that, but I would love to be supporting a corporate, right? Sometime in my future, maybe sitting back at home in my own office, doing this, helping other maybe store managers excel, maybe helping new, salespeople develop the skill sets that we've developed in Bellingham. That. But at the same time, I'm not doing that today. Today, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. And so I was assessing with my boss, what does that look like for me? And we have some options. And truth be told, I chewed on all of them. I thought about leaving state, going to maybe get into a district manager role. And then I realized, wow, it was 80 degrees here. There's no way I can move to the south where it's going to be hot and humid all the time. And I said no, thank you, because I'm a little bit of a sissy when it comes to heat these days, right? Thought about a different store, bigger, more responsibility, more work. And truth be told, I didn't want that either. I didn't want that either. And the reason I didn't want it, and I had to think about my why. Why would I turn down success opportunities? Wait, what? Didn't you just say you like success? Aren't you a growth coach? Aren't you somebody who's like, hey, 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 let's do more? Yeah, except that I remember why I was resting. And so when I assessed my why, the rest was because of loss, right? And when it came to this role, loss found me again, not once, but twice. 7 days apart, I lost two people who were very young in their life. One was an employee, one was the boyfriend of an employee, and actually, he was my customer before she was an employee. She was hand delivered by him to me saying, please hire her. So, more loss. I was trying to work through it. I even contemplated a different business venture with a friend. And as we talked about the loss, I realized I am in no way ready for that. Again, having to rest on things that could have been a quick success. And I don't doubt that. The premise is fantastic. And I think it should still take off in some way because people need it. But I wasn't ready to just focus on that thing right now. And I knew that because loss is too heavy for Melissa sometimes. And that's okay. I'm also a coach that supports a lot of other people in their situations, and sometimes they go through loss. And so adding more to the plate when I know loss is already like heavy in my world, it didn't feel right. And that's okay. I rest in success. I don't rest in strife. I don't rest in other people's misery. I don't rest in my own misery. I want to do what I can with what I can, right? I've seen it. My mom was an addict, so growing up in an addicted household, there was a lot of times where I would hear quotes from recovery organizations, right? One day at a time, tackle what you can. Those little things where I am only responsible for myself. My mom would leave them on her fridge and little notes all over the place, and I love that she did that because I got the same mindset. And it was great. Maybe it was very much preventative even because I was learning what she was learning late. But that means I can say no to extra work right now. Would I love to go tackle more? Yes. Am I ready to do it this winter? No. I have my daughter in school for 2 more high school years, and I'd like to spend those last 2 years with my baby, finger quotes, focused. The role I have now allows me to lose clients, and I'm saying this carefully, right? But the industry I'm in slows down in winter, right? It's that seasonal shift. Again, I'm coming back to it. The season shift the business for me in my day job. They also give me PTO. They also give me an opportunity to like work after this. I can do this show and still go to work today, and they don't overlap at all. It's not going to interfere with what I do on LinkedIn. There's gifts there. That's part of the reason I said yes to this. It's a passion job. I get to play with people in their passion. Erin's been there. I get to have fun with my customers. We laugh, we joke. It's family. That's part of the loss for my assistant. That's part of what she's going to experience is the loss of the community that we've built. She has to leave that behind to go create a new opportunity to regrow that thing, right? It's a shift that's hard. It's not easy. Success is not something that's fun. We've seen people who find success find trouble dating, right? I've seen these famous people that it's like, man, so many people want to be this person. And I can't say I've ever wanted to be a famous person. I might have wanted the hair of a famous person or the look of a famous person, but I like me. But I've seen others who just like swear that's all they want to be. I've seen news stories of people taking it to surgical mean or ends to look like a famous person because they really wanted to emulate them, right? That's cool for them, but they lose themselves in the process. And those people get on the stage and they talk about how they can't connect with real humans anymore. They can't even go grocery shopping. They can't do normal everyday things. By winning, they lost normal, right? Finger quotes. Normal is different for everybody, but their normal shifted. They could no longer do the things they used to do. They couldn't just go get a coffee with a friend without paparazzi, without be mass signatures needed. I think about Michael Jackson and how he used to shut down like a whole mall for his family to be able to go just look. By winning, you lose. And so remembering that shift, remembering that action creates change and change creates feelings and feelings create ripples, right? You have to anchor back into the why. I want to help people be successful. I like all businesses being better off because I've had my impact. I love the thought of taking somebody like my assistant who reminds me so much of me when I was younger. Don't tell her I said that. And just focusing that passion and explaining, like, hey, the rough edges here, let me just smooth this for you. Hey, hold on, let me get that lint off of your collar. Hey, let me you got toilet paper on your shoe, right? Somebody to just slow you down and say, hey, let's tighten this up. No, 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 we don't do that. And create that change that they need. The stuff grandma told me to do for the family, I want to do for the world. My family is not big enough to support everybody. And so everybody's got to have that mindset of how can we make each other better? How do we reinforce relationships in spite of change, right? I have left businesses to go out on my own. I have had to leave organizations to get a better job. And some of the friends weren't friends later. It was like my shift created space, not because I wanted to, but because they were mad I left. I am just pausing because I wonder if you've had this happen. Have you ever lost somebody because you decided to go to a different school, go down a different career path, take a different class this year? Maybe we're not doing the same classes this year. I know we've always been in choir. Now I want to do band. I want to go to drama. Hey, I know we always sat under this tree, this table, this whatever. Now I got to go over here. When people find success, how do you feel? Because that's something else. I live on a platform that has a lot of successful people on it. There's a lot of people looking for success. There's a lot of people trying to gain focus. Um, and there's an effect. I often think about do you guys remember the opening to Sesame Street, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? That pinball bouncing all over the screen. It was an opening in the 70s, probably, that they did. I remember my mom sang the song with it, so she must have known it from when she was younger, and I was just watching, right? And it's the same concept with success. For me, it's just climbing the board, making all the bells and whistles go off, right? Seeing all of the action take place, seeing the movement, and running the score up. But then there's also that like multi-ball effect. Remember that? Where your success, like you might have hit it really far and it's really great, but then it runs into a ball that's kind of stagnant, kind of stuck up in the corner, maybe not moving the same way. And then there's impact and it creates a ripple and they go off on their own ways. And sometimes it creates a better situation for that ball that was stagnant, right? Sometimes we see it moving and it's a good thing and it creates a new high score because it just knocked it into that one spot where it could just bounce, 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 bounce. Ding, 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 ding. High score, high score, high score. And then there's other times where somebody's action sends you right into the hole, like just boom, return back to launch point. Which ball are you? How do you move? Are you helping somebody's score go up? Are you letting their momentum push you? Do you give them credit for that? Thank you for those who do, right? I saw Nick. Thank you for saying advice helps. I know, Aaron. um, oh gosh, somebody tell him. Yeah, LinkedIn. Sorry, Annie. We're having issues. StreamYard didn't want LinkedIn to go live, and so there's like 2 events over there, and there might be another live event on LinkedIn, but I'm glad you found me on YouTube. Maybe it was StreamYard saying, hey, go follow her YouTube channel. But guys, what is your ripple? What is that ball? What is that bounce effect? If somebody were to speak your name behind your back, what are they saying and why? Now, the other part of this, right? Not just what our reputation is when we're not in the room, but how do you carry your friends' reputations when they're not in the room? How do you elevate people behind the scenes without credit, even? Is your ripple one to build momentum? Do you like to push them down when they're not watching? Because I've seen it happen in many ways, guys. And I'm not calling anybody out because I think everybody has had a ripple effect, good and bad, in everybody's life. Every parent you've ever met has a story that their child could tell in therapy. That's just a fact. Right? The first story that comes to mind when I think about my trauma is my mom didn't buy me bubbles when I was pregnant, and I really just needed an emotional, like, release moment, and I just wanted to blow bubbles and let it all out, and I had this whole mindset thing planned, and I was just gonna, like, breathe it out and exhale the bad and, like, watch it float away, and, I mean, cool, it was 40 cents, 49 cents, and it my mom was poor, right? Like, for her, that was a huge not necessary thing for me to go, "Ooh, I want bubbles." I didn't explain my reasoning, but there was a ripple there. That's the trauma my mom gave me by saying no to bubbles. Is it small? Yes. Was there a moment there? Yes. Do I still think bubbles matter? Yes. Do I understand why bubbles matter so much sometimes when they shouldn't? Yeah, because sometimes bubbles aren't bubbles, right? So how are you moving in people's lives? If somebody is promoted, if somebody shifts away from you at work, if somebody it has new friend circles. If somebody wants to grow beyond what you can do for them, you got to let them, right? We can't not. And it's something that I struggle with too. I want to watch my team stay together. I would love to keep them all in one spot. These are my babies. Let me put them, my kids, right? My grandbabies. I would love to keep them tiny and just in my pocket, just in my pocket, pull them out when I need them. But that's not life. And if that's how we try to contain the people we care about, we're really holding them back. We're hindering their movement. We're hindering their action. And then what kind of change can they create for themselves if we are in charge of their actions? And it's not something that I'm just saying to you, it's something I have to remind myself of all the time. I have to slow myself down and go, hold on. Why are you feeling this way? What are you doing? What are you thinking? Why is it this moment? Is it for their benefit? Is it for your benefit? Is it for mutual benefit? Is it something where you're just, "Hey, I don't wanna let the summer go because I still wanna wear my favorite bathing suit, and I don't know if next year it'll be here," right? Maybe I won't fit into it next year, I wanna wear it now. I don't know. Maybe you want your best friend to always be your best friend. Maybe you guys were inseparable, and the thought of going to separate colleges or going to different divisions within the organization or answering to them now because they're your boss creates a shift. These things can really become detrimental to us if we don't remember our why are we in the movement? Why are we here? Why do we want to take action at all? What was the win for? Why do we start out on the journey to win at all? When I think about winning, right? Success on LinkedIn, that looks like and what people are pitching all the time, it varies depending on who's talking about it. If I'm going to be honest with you, some people think success is being at home with your family nonstop, right? I was a remote worker for a decade. I picked my schedule. I worked when I needed to. I got to hold myself accountable, and it was great. I had to answer the phone when it rang for sure, but beyond that, I had flexibility. And sometimes I hear that's all they want in life, and I use finger quotes for they. But there are people on LinkedIn who say that is their success, and that's all they're striving for. Some say, hey, I just want to live in a nice house. I want to live in this area. I want to do this. Okay, great. Some people say that's success and that's what they're striving for. Others who stand in that space go, I would love to pay off the mortgage and I would love to move to a smaller town. I would love to get rid of this debt, whatever it is, right? And so success is different for everybody. Maybe you're the NFL player, but now success is the family, the house. You can afford it all, but nobody's there. So what's the point? Because you have 50 rooms, but you don't have 50 people to fill them with. Define success. Remember why you start down the journey and keep going. The reason I took this role that I'm in is because I needed rest. And rest, finger quotes, looks different for everybody, right? Just like success. Last week I said rest is success. And I think that's true because when we rest, we get to define and assess and realign and do all the things we need to do. When I thought about why I'm at my current role, when I'm not here and when I'm not coaching, it's because I want to coach the people who can't afford me. That is that environment. Those people make good money, but they don't make the kind of money some of my other clients make, right? Um, they're younger. A lot of them don't think about coaching mindset, career. They think about getting to work on time and making sure their bills are paid and maybe turning in their homework because some of them are still in college. So when I think about it, I think about the Melissa that couldn't afford a me back then and how I want to make sure she gets to talk to those people. And if I would have had somebody like me at 18, I don't know where my life would have went. And I don't yearn for that life, but I would love to gift that opportunity to somebody else because I know the impact of having a conversation with me when you're on LinkedIn at 40 and 50 and when you have your business is already started and when you've already figured it out, right? Somehow, some way that conversation can have a ripple. And it does. So that's the reason I'm there. I want to give it back. I also wanted an opportunity to have somebody else pay me for my vacation time. As a solopreneur, it's hard because people don't remind you of this, but you don't get vacation unless you plan for it. You have to put the money away for that. Because if you are a solopreneur and every day you work creates additional revenue, that revenue not happening because you take 14 days off in a row, 2 weeks vacation like your employer would give you, could have a ripple in your business, right? If you have to tap the tree every day to get the sap, you're never going to stop tapping the tree. You're never going to take a break because you need the sap every day. Think about that. I did. And I went, okay, yeah, I like thinking about a 401k that can build while I sit here in my rest. I do like to think that I get PTO and sick time. So if something happens, I have a safety net, right? Because things happened and I watched it and I lived it and I experienced it. And even though it was death around me, it doesn't mean that at some point my health won't also have question marks around it, right? So I'm thinking about the future, not just today, but long term. I also thought about how frustrated I am with myself that when I had this success of working at home, setting my own schedule, I wasn't building all of the programs I wish I would have, right? When I look back now, I'm like, oh man, if I would have just started these things then. As a coach, I tell people to do it all the time, but sometimes we don't take our own medicine. Sometimes we get so busy building somebody else's dream, we forget to build our own. And so now I'm sitting here going, hey, I'm in a spot where I can rest in success, fourth in the nation. My assistant's number 3 in the nation. I'm, I'm watching growth. I'm watching others come up behind her, becoming successful. I get to talk to other leaders in other stores and give them my wisdom, my knowledge, and they're observant and thankful and grateful and reaching out. That's beautiful. I'm resting in success with the ability to still do what I want to do every day. And guys, anybody who faults you for working on your dream while you work for somebody else, assess. It's that pinball effect, right? Think about why your successes matter to them to that degree and why their judgment. Because I tell my clients, go work part time for Starbucks. Is it a dream job? No. Would every coach tell you to do it? Probably not. But you want to know why I tell my clients who want to be successful in business, who are starting as solopreneurs to go? I'll share it. They are a huge global organization, number one. Number two, I have firsthand experience knowing their inner workings because I have somebody in my home who works for them. Next, I know that you can work part-time hours and get full-time benefits. Benefits, the things that I just said I'd like to have, right? Now, my husband has wonderful benefits, but it's nice to have a safety net for him too. He hasn't been very healthy. What if something goes wrong? This is a great way for us to still maintain everything we've built towards. If his fails, mine is still in existence. Strategic. I used to make $10,000 a day on LinkedIn. Not every day, but it happened. Now I'm not. Does it mean I'm not making money? No. Does it mean that I have slowed down on one side and I've sped up on the other? Absolutely. Right. And so what does it look like for me? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why does it look like, I've taken a step back? Because I have, but it's also a huge step forward for me because while I'm resting, I'm number 4 in the nation as a store manager in a small little town that shouldn't be on the map. This store was struggling. Other managers in my area have told me how they were so worried about it because for a long time it was just always at the bottom of the district. And now we're not. We're not just at the top of the district in many ways. We're top of the whole thing. Our our KPIs, our key performance indicators, when we look back and assess, we're winning. Our growth is visible, evident, and that name keeps popping up in front of all the people who need to find me for me to do the next thing sometime, someday. That's cool, guys. What does that look like for you? Right. And I don't want to just keep talking about me, but I'm the only one on stage and it's easy to talk about myself. If you want to join, you can message me on LinkedIn. I will totally send you the link. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But the other thing I want to just reiterate, right? There's reasons people have change. That when we win, we lose. Heck, as a woman, I won a husband, I lost my last name. I took it. It was, oh, hey, it's 7 o'clock. My alarm went off. Yeah. I lost my last name, and that was fine because I gained a new name, a family, a, a, a feeling of belonging that really, in my lifetime, I wasn't really feeling before. Because if you ever knew my story, I wasn't raised with my dad. I ended up getting a name different than my mom, and it was long story short, I never felt 100% overlapping because I never had the same last name as my family. And so when I won, I lost, but what did I lose? I don't know, not much, right? Just a piece of what I used to be, but I'm still there. There's still times when they go, hey, what was your maiden name? It matters, right? It's not like it's gone forever. It's still a part of me. And so think about the things that you've shifted from and why. The people that you've shifted from, the people that come and go from your life, and why do they determine they need to shift? I've had people leave my circle. And to be honest, I've had them do it quietly where all of a sudden, you go look, and I know others have seen it because I've been on the socials where I go and I see the meme and whatever, however you say it, that says, oh, wondered why I hadn't heard from you in a while, went to go look and we're not friends anymore. Like that Facebook disconnect automatically thing. Um, where, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or they're just, you've been blocked and you don't know why. And it's not just me. I'm a coach, right, guys? I've seen this happen, but I have had people block me. I'm certain of it. I've asked people to block me if I upset them because I shouldn't be in your headspace if I'm upsetting to you. And I don't want to be upsetting to you. So if making you happy is leaving, I would be happy to do that, right? But how many times do you block people for your mental health? There's there's something else about winning the authority to lose people. Like giving yourself that opportunity to say, this is no longer healthy for me. I have to go. And that's the thing I will tell you was the hardest for me. If you've been following me, you know that um, I had to take action to create change. My upbringing was not one that I wanted for my children. It was something that I was really determined to fix before it was too late. Best I could, right? And I'm a human, so I'm not perfect by any means. I don't think I'm like Superman coming in to save the day, but I do hold myself accountable for the ripple that I can create. I do want to be the change because my grandmother put that on me. If you haven't read the story, go find it. If you don't want to read it, YouTube has the history. I've read my chapters live. You can go find them. But I took action to create a change, and that change sometimes meant cutting off people I loved. One of them was my mom. I had to cut her off for years, and not in a way that was like really hurtful intentionally, right? It wasn't like, oh, I hate you, go away. But it was a, hey, if you're not sober, I can't speak to you. It's too hard to watch you use. That's a loss. But to win my mindset back, to win my clarity, and to win my mental health and peace back, I had to set the boundary. And I lost my mom in the process, and it was years we didn't get to speak. Many seasons, right? We had to shift away. And I had tried to do it close. I had tried to be in the same town. I tried to just get my own place and do my own thing. But family would come to the door and phone calls would happen. And to be quite honest, the police would show up randomly at my door to say, hey, so and so had this issue. Can you help by taking so and so overnight? And there was a lot of times it was so and so's, and they weren't the same person all the time, most of the time. Too big a family, too much chaos. So even when I was successful, even when I was creating this peaceful environment for my family, it would come to my door because I was close enough to be there. And it was very much that rats in a barrel scenario for my family. I still feel it sometimes is that way, where if they want to help, they will. But if you get too successful, I see people who will tear you down. And it's not everybody, but there are specific family members that I personally had to lose in order to win, to get peace back, to have boundaries set so I could find success. There were employers that I had worked for, and one specific, let me say employer that comes to mind, but there are employers out there who act this way. An employer who, if you left them, if you decided to find success in a different way, they would wait a little bit of time and then call your new employer and talk down about you behind your back, create a ripple so they would let you go. That's really gross stuff, guys. Those are the kind of things that you've got to protect against. You have to lose in order to win, right? And people don't always remember that you can't win without a loss sometimes. If you've been a wrestler, you know you got to cut weight to get on the mat sometimes, right? Or you gain weight, you lose your slim physique to be able to compete at the next level. Think about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. You know him. I don't know if you've ever seen how he eats his meals, but he has to lose all fun and flavor, and he eats, not losing focus. He eats protein, he eats vegetables, he eats macros. He understands every single calorie that goes in his body, and he doesn't lose focus, but he loses the ability to say yes to like a quick dinner out with friends, right? It's going to be extremely hard for him to just go to the wedding and have a good time with and not get hungry or not be weird and have to bring it or not have to lose his diet plan for the focus. And that's okay, but boundaries, right? What are your boundaries? How much are you going to lose to win? How much are you willing to give up to find success? And how much should you have to? I want to really be clear. I bring this up and I brought Dwayne The Rock Johnson up because I think it's important to remember that there is a healthy balance and then there's not. On the alternate side, right, where people feel like a win would be fitting in a certain size dress and then they take it too far. They lose themselves in the process. They don't feed themselves. They're not in self care mode. They stop fueling their body appropriately because they're focused on the wrong thing. Success, a win, has become one simple weight, dress size, dollar amount in the bank account. Guys, there could be a lot of analogies here, but if success is only one bullet point on your list, you've lost focus on other things. For me, I am a Venn diagram girl, right? I like the overlap. I like the bubbles. If you look at this background picture, even right here, all of these circles, this is success to me. It's more of a glitter effect. It's not one cherry on top of a sundae. I want it to shine everywhere. I want all of the things that are Melissa to sparkle. It's an analogy. It's fun to use for marketing, but it's a genuine belief system where I can't find success in business and feel successful and have it be a win if my family is not cared for and thriving at home. I don't, oh, I'm going to get emotional. Just, I don't feel successful of overcoming poverty and homelessness and hunger personally when I know others still feel it and experience it. When I look at the news and I see people who have won, one for their party, one for their city, one for their moment that they were pushing for, whatever that is. And I don't care what side you're on. I don't. I want you to contemplate this with me. Pull out your colored crayon. I don't care. But if your win is somebody else's loss and you're celebrating that somebody else is now homeless or without funding for food or shelter or health care, if your win hurts somebody else physically, emotionally, mentally, how can you rest in that win? Right? Because for me, the reason, and maybe it's a guilt thing, guys, I'll own this. I really will. But every time somebody pays me for a session, I give one away. I can't fathom leaving somebody behind if I can help. And every time somebody pays me, I'm okay enough to help somebody else again. This is the question Aaron asked, and honestly asked and answered almost right. For me, this is it. How do I do it? Is if I win, you win. If I have somebody feed me, I will turn around and give you a piece of my bread, right? How do you pull somebody forward? You just see them and help them. It could be as simple as letting them go first through the door. Somebody saw you today and thought you deserved the first step, the next step, the kindness. To lock eyes with somebody and just say, you know, I love your shirt today. Hey, you know what? I really appreciate your art. Oh my gosh, those are the cutest shoes. Oh my gosh, that's the cutest setup in your garden. I don't care where you find people in action, but if you could just reinforce that you enjoy something they're doing, if you see it and you appreciate it, tell them. Sometimes when we lose our voice, we don't celebrate other people's wins. And there are times where other people's wins feel like your loss, right? It is hard to want to go shake the other team's hand when you didn't win the Super Bowl. It is. But don't lose focus on the fact that you're at the Super Bowl and you made how many other team members on other teams feel the exact same way right before that. And if we can't be mindful of that, right? That's the part I think we lose a lot as leaders. Your loss is a loss and it hurts and it sucks. But do you clap for the other people nominated for the Oscar or are you just mad? I clap. Now I can be both. I can be salty and clap. I got to be honest with you. There is a duality there. But I'm salty for me. I'm happy for you. I'm mad that we didn't put in that extra effort that did it. I didn't have the same perspective you did. I didn't see the opportunity the way you did. Right? I can be mad about that, but also happy for you. I can celebrate your win while still accepting my loss. And I think that part, being a good team player, being somebody who's a good sport, so to speak, right? Knowing there are seasons, knowing that next year, next quarter, next game, you're going to see a different version of me. I'm going to use it to motivate myself forward. And if I see you win and then you get ugly, right? If I see you take your trophy and then turn around and stick your tongue out, I always think about Pee Wee Herman. Remember that guy? Yeah, whatever. He stole Pee Wee's bike. I can't think of his name. When he made that face at Pee Wee behind his back, I was always like, gosh, he would be such a good friend if he'd stop being a jerk. Do you win an argument with your friend and lose your friendship? Because sometimes that can happen, and I don't like to have that happen. But have I had arguments that could lose friendships? Yes. Did I have to come back and reconcile? Yes. Did sometimes they come back? Yes. Are there times where others didn't come back and I had to let them go? Yes. When you think about loss, sometimes in winning you lose, sometimes it's a lose lose. There are win win situations, but still, for every winner, there's a loser, right? That's the duality. That's the balance of it all. It's the Venn diagram. Oh, I love this question. Be right there. I do think that if you're both losing, right? Like having two best friends fighting, you're both losing. Having your spouse and you fight, you're both losing. Having both of your parents fighting, you're both losing. Like the children are losing, right? And so how do you make it work in spite of the loss? Like sometimes you have to argue. Sometimes you got to have the conversation. Arguing, finger quotes, right? It's different for everybody and it should be mindful and it should be kind and it should be beneficial and move us forward. But what does that look like for the kids? What does that look like for you? And how do you maintain yourself? Because I don't want to win an argument if I lose myself in the argument to win. If I get nasty, and I have a tongue that's really sharp and it's really fast, and sometimes my brain moves faster than my brain, right? My mouth will just run off. How do I filter? Is I slow down. I have to slow down and assess why I feel the way I do. I will find a safe space, right? I will go to somebody, a friend, a confidant, a colleague, a therapist, even somebody, and say, this is what I'm thinking. This is why I'm thinking it. I'm not saying it's right. This is how I'm processing, but I'm also an outward processor. So when I speak it out loud to others, I get more clarity. And so for me, sometimes finding that space where I can process, even if it's ugly. And I call it my petty Betty moments. And I'm like, I'm going to be petty Betty for 2 seconds. Hold on. And I get human and I'll say, I'm jealous. I'm this, I'm that. And I will dump whatever that feeling is. Even if it's like, ooh, I just want to bite her face off. I will say it out loud. And then I step out of that. Once I've evaluated it, assessed it, understood why I feel that way, because the feeling's there, right? As an emotional woman, I'll be honest. I told Jackie, I'm so grateful being an emotional woman who's allowed to assess the feelings and just own them. And I'm not penalized for having them. It's wow, that's a feeling. Why are we feeling that way, right? And when you can harness that and do it not to hurt people, but to understand yourself and then move with the knowledge in a healthy way, in a winning way, where you guys can come back and still be friends at the end kind of way. That's a value for me, a huge value. And not everybody has it, but guys, ask yourself why. If you find yourself in situations with friends or family that are chaotic, ask yourself why. And what do you do when it hits the fan? How do you move forward? And I'll be honest, Any is back here. Any, we don't do camera in my store. Sorry, buddy. You put your pretty face up and that's it. That's it. All right, here we go. I'm going to add him to the stage. Any, let's talk about this. I've seen you go live. You're a host. For those who don't know, Any is fantastic. Go check him out. But how many times in your room have I was like, oh my gosh, you have patience, Any? How do you do this, Any? And you're really good at it. But why is it you're so kind when maybe others wouldn't be? Or why is it that you're such a bubble, is how I would describe you. You just float away from it. How do you
Uh,
make
you're so kind. You're too kind, of course. But
well,
I know and I know that you've got the
with
other
you?
side. You keep trying to remind us of the human side, you call it, right?
Yeah.
No, I said, look on my show. It's I think I worked at the beginning that I had to be super nice to people, super nice to everyone, because I get nothing by being horrid to anyone. If anything, I'll take my horridness. I think we all have moments of being ourselves, right? Of being human. And I guess I'm sure you and I try to be less of that human side and more of the really nice person side. But look, I don't really think about it. There's no point. There's so many different levels, Melissa. So many different levels. Okay.
And that's it, right? It's like the glitter effect behind us. It really is layer upon layer of things, and it's not one thing.
No, it
And
really
really, yeah, right. But it is hard unless, and I think this is why you do it so well, is you're here to make money. You're here to grow people's businesses. You're here to help them figure it out, kind of like I am, right? We do a lot of the same things in different ways. I don't do books. I write in them. I don't publish them, right? I have friends who do that. But we're here to help other people really see their dreams to fruition. And I think when we do that, even if we're earning income on it, even though it's not fully selfless, we're not selfish in that movement because we are here to serve. And it's not always perfect, right? And guys, you have to overlap with your clients. You have to make sure the alignment's there and assess often. There are times where clients are perfect for me for a while. And then it's like, oh, you've leveled up. Good luck. Here's the next guy, right? And I push them off to the next person. They've hit our max. They know how to use circles. They can figure it out. They know how to ask good questions of themselves and hold themselves accountable. Go get a marketing person that's focused more on email. I hate email. I'm not going to do it. You go find somebody who will, right? And I think there's something profound about being able to say, hey, this isn't my circle anymore. Let me step back and let you float off. Let me just push the bubble over here. Bubbles, Any.
I agree with you then. Well, your circles. Look, I suppose the one thing I guess I know is that there's no gain in doing someone else in. That's a British terminology, right? And I win, you lose. There's no gain in that whatsoever, because even if you look at it from a business sense, business perspective, other people will see you as almost evil if you win and others lose, right? Really. It doesn't. It's not a cool look. It doesn't help anyone at all. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help the other person who's lost. So I'm very aware. I want to create win-wins. Even sometimes I create I lose, you win, like you said, because we're here to elevate other people, right?
Yeah.
So that's one way I look at it. But I think another way is simply to say, there is nothing for me to be so attached to, for me to feel bad. There's nothing apart from our health. I don't think even our wealth is not that important in the scheme of things, because our wealth will come anyway, right? Me making money doesn't mean someone else doesn't make money. That's rarely the case. But if that is the case, I don't really care to win. I'm fine. So it's
And
go on, please carry on.
yeah, I love that. Sorry to interrupt, but I love that about you because truth be told, we're not going to be everybody's favorite, right? I talked about chocolate, and there are people who don't like chocolate. Chocolate. Do you know how many different ways we can have chocolate? And there are people who don't like it at all. They're just like, no, thank you, never again, not once. And if chocolate can't get 100% support, Melissa will never, because I'm not that sweet, sir. I'm not. But it's really hard to be honest with people and have that always feel like a win. And I think the honest part of you, which is a little bit of your petty Betty side, which I know comes out too, but genuinely, I know you try to move in kindness. I've watched you try to support people. And while you're also very firm with your boundaries and kind of, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say edgy, but edgy. Um, so am I, right? And it's something where I don't disagree with your movement if it helps you maintain your win-win. And sometimes, guys, just because we're firm in our boundaries, it feels like a loss for others. Like when I say no to my kids, they're like, she's the meanest mom ever. But the no is actually for their benefit. We don't always understand that. The no is sometimes to prevent it from getting worse, right? And being able to assess it on the go. That's something Aaron just asked about. How does one know the skills? First thing I do is my gut, Emmy. I follow my gut feeling. My stomach never lies to me. I can smell it in the air that something shifted in the room. I can feel that energy. And so when that energy is off, I back up and I figure out why it's off. I'm like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. Why? What's happening here? What is it for you, Emmy? How do you harness that moment of knowing when to change?
See, I agree with you. I think you have to go with your gut feeling, and I do know. That's my ultimate go-to. And gut feeling. It sounds like something. What's the word I'm looking for? Something random, right? Something unpredictable. But I think I tend to work from it's our relationship ultimately. Can we get on? I mean, I wouldn't have come on your on stage if if we didn't get on, Melissa. I just wouldn't. I go to many events and never say a word. I have no intention of going on stage ever. But if I like you and we get on, then I tend to want to be in your space. I tend to want to be involved in what you're doing. There's many people that sadly I don't like, but I get over myself, right? But if I don't like you, I can't work
What?
with you.
Emmy,
I can't work with you.
I love everybody. What do you mean? They're all my best friends in the whole wide world ever. No, genuinely, I don't like some people too. But I love all humans. I gotta say, I love humans. I think humans all should be here for their purpose. And even people I don't necessarily like, I pray for. I want to thrive. I've even like tried to help in some ways people I don't like, just because maybe if they're happier, they'd be somebody I would like more. Um, but I don't ever wish anybody harm because that's not who I am. But I
See,
do happily back up so I don't hurt them because eventually there's only so many times a lady in an airport's going to be able to kick my shin and I'll back up. And if she keeps finding my shin, I'm going to set a boundary, right? Now, do I scream as soon as somebody accidentally bumps into me at an airport? No. But if you keep tapping me repeatedly, I'm going to tap back or I'm going to make space. And I first try to make space, but then I'm good at boundaries too. And so, I mean, it's hard, but I appreciate that you come on my stage because at first you said I picked on you a lot and you were so scared to be on my stage as a guest before.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing. It's it was again maybe that's another part of the equation. In terms of who are you? So Aaron asked, when do you know to level up on your skills, for example? I guess I think for me, I have we all have a self-image, right? And I've told myself I am that nice person. Because I am that nice person. I think that's part of what reinforces how I act anyway. That I have really, I think it's same for everyone. Who we think we are it's how we act, it's how we behave. I think you mentioned that a few minutes ago. Taking action to make change, right? If we don't think we're that person, then we tend to behave as a person we think we are. That's a weird thing. I think I think part of being the person you are is knowing almost instinctively what's the right thing for you to do. Sometimes it can be too nice, by the way.
Well, and that can happen, but I got to ask you, okay, so I did this thing, this rest on success, right? When you're successful, I think it's easier to not burst somebody else's bubble.
I agree.
And
I
so
agree
when
100%. But that's facts. That's facts. Let me say, the higher up you go, the nicer you are. That's how.
well, I
That's
don't know
how.
about that. I don't know about that. I've seen some people in some high places that aren't so kind.
Hmm.
And there's some people who elevate that behavior, right? Like there's trolls on the internet who are famous for trolling. There's people out here who are mean for mean's sake. So, but I think kindness, like genuine, when I think Mr. Rogers, he was so successful. He had a new cardigan just to come home to, right? Like that guy had extra stuff. He had a whole closet just for his sweaters. That's that's beautiful. He had house shoes and outside shoes. And success was peace in his house. And I always thought his house was success as a kid, having a fish tank, having friends, and having neighbors who were kind. Um, and maybe that's what I think success still looks like. But when I see unkind happen, I genuinely question the success around them. When people are
Same
frazzled,
here. Same here. Same here.
right?
If someone is, the way people behave tells me how successful they are, really. But I think maybe we're trying to we're redefining success, Melissa. Right? Success is
I
not how
think
much
so.
money you make. It's not how high you go. It's not your qualifications. I think for me, success is that peace, that peace of mind. Like I said in the comments, and I want peace of mind and just live in joy most days, right? Live without any aggro, any stress, any worries. I don't know if that's a modern day thing. That way that we're creating, or whether that's the same for everyone. It's a
Well,
question.
I'm curious. Actually, that's a great question for the audience, guys. And if you want to join the stage, message me on LinkedIn, and I'll send you the thing. I can have up to 10 friends, I think. I don't know. I've never hit the max at once because that's a lot. But I do think resting in success is being able to step back and go, ooh, that doesn't feel good. And having the time to acknowledge the feeling, to assess what's going on. Not everybody has the time. I think about some of the stuff that's going on in the world. If I was in a country facing a war or any of the stuff we're seeing, we probably wouldn't be feeling this way, right? Success would be eating today, surviving another day. And so, perspective, I want to be very transparent. I know I'm very lucky to be worrying about working from home versus not being at the office kind of deal, right? But um, a win, a loss, it comes back to that same mentality. If we stop trying to hurt others to feel successful, we wouldn't have these problems. And so when I look at those who are in leadership who have won the role and they're not kind and they're moving in the other ways that we're talking about from success feeling, right? Being restful and being encouraging and helpful and kind and engaging and overlapping and glitter and bubbles and stuff. It makes me curious as to what success really is to those people if this is what we're seeing. Because success has signs, right? We've heard that before. You can tell. I can tell wealth not by how much glitter is on it, but by the way people move in a room. Wealthy people have a stride. They cruise. They have time to take time. It reminds me of that movie, and I'm going to bring you in on this because I know you've watched it, Aaron Gibson, where we have Justin Timberlake running, right? And he's got time on his arm and he's just running a clock all the time. And as he's moving through, and I'm not going to give away the movie, guys, you should watch it. But as he's moving into higher quality of living, as he's able to enter into these realms, as he gets more time, he has to slow down. The hint that he is poor is because he moves too quickly. And honestly, that resonated in my soul. Aaron, did you see the movie? Did we talk about this movie in coaching? I feel like we might have. I don't know. Where are you?
No, we haven't talked about that one, but I think I know which one you're talking about. I haven't watched
It
all of
might
it.
be In Time. Does anybody know? I'm going to go look. But what's coming up for you? Welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here as always. I just you're throwing me back to an actual experience I had this week on the plane. And good morning, Annie. I loved one of the things that actually Annie brought up right at the beginning, and I questioned it, which was, well, when we do get into social media, um, is it this really desire to play nice, or is it just being authentically ourselves? Because again, we've got those balance points or those boundaries that we've set up. So yes, we are absolutely who we are authentically. However, when we say something that we're not conscientious of that could, adversely affect somebody or not be thoughtful into, the other perspectives out there, that's when we start getting that concern of, was that the right thing? Am I being mean? Case in point, which was the example I'm going to use, is this week on the plane. Sat down on the plane. I'm always an aisle guy. I have autism. I do not like being touched. If I don't know you, don't touch me. However, I was sitting next to an individual. Unfortunately, this individual was overweight and literally taking up almost a quarter of my seat while I'm sitting on the plane. And of course, I'm shifting over to one, accommodate, and two, so I'm not making contact with this person. However, during that whole situation, that wasn't the only contact. She began to then fidget and move around and rub up against me. And I made it about an hour and a half into the flight. And I had two choices at that point, and this is where I like to bring up Melissa Houston Coaching and Consulting, is it was bubble moment for me. I recognized that there was an uncomfortability going on, and I had two approaches on way I could approach that. I could have simply been quite vulnerable with my Aspie mind and said, you know what, if you're going to move around like a child the entire time, why don't you just switch seats with your husband there? Now, of course, being a bubble, you also recognize that that's not going to go over well, probably with the husband. It's probably going to make this lady feel very uncomfortable about her weight. So how does a bubble respond? Well, I got up, didn't say anything to her, got up and simply went and talked to one of the airline attendants and said, is there another seat that I can possibly move to? This is the situation, and I don't want to seem like I'm coming across as a jerk, but I have autism and I can't have people touching me through a flight. She's already spilled over, I'm literally squeezed into the very smallest portion of my seat. And being 6'1", 210 pounds myself, I'm not a small guy either. But again, I'm now being forced out into the aisle. And anytime somebody walks by to go to the bathroom, I'm now getting hip checked or cross checked. So that's that moment of where's the balance fall into play and how are we going to approach it and establishing your own boundaries. Yeah, I could have just told her, my boundaries, please don't touch me. But it could have gone very south very quickly. So both of your topics are tying into this really well. And I had to just share that because they were hitting so close to home for me from this past week. And I was literally more than overjoyed to get off of that plane. But again, that could have been a much more uncomfortable experience.
This right here, don't lose focus. What I love about this story is not the story. I'll be honest. It sucks. It sucks for both of you because she's probably uncomfortable. And I think about myself and I'm like, I can't sit still on a plane because my hips hurt. So I have to shift the weight. But I also hate being touched by people I don't know. I am very aware of my space. I actually even have to tell my team members, listen, if I can't stretch my arms out with my palms flat, like just put your arms straight out, guys, and keep your hands up like you're saying stop like a traffic cop and move my hands in a circle back and forth like I'm trying to swim or something. You're too close. Because genuinely, if you get that close to me, I can feel my air warmer. And that's weird for me. I don't know why it's weird. I just don't like hot air in my face. Arizona girl, I moved to the cold for a reason. I don't know. But then also, I genuinely get vibes, right? I don't want to call it a gift, but it feels sometimes like a surprise gift you don't even want, where you stand too close and I can almost feel your energy changing my energy. And I don't know how to explain it except like magnets, right? It's that kind of sensation that genuinely will radiate off of a human if they're close to me. Sometimes it's great and we snap together and I just want to give you a big hug and squish your cheeks. Other times I'm like, oh my gosh, get this human away from me. I don't like this vibe. And I can't help that. I don't know what it is, but as you described it, I was like, oh, I live that life. Exactly what you said. Don't touch me. If I don't know you, don't touch me. And so to be in that too, knowing that feeling, I'm not always kind. I'm really not. I'll be honest. But I try to be because I'm a coach. And so knowing that I can be aggressive, sometimes my face speaks first and they just back up because my eyebrow does the thing. But other times I do have to excuse myself, right? And you got up and said, hey, this is my problem. Can you help me solve it, to somebody who was above her pay grade? It wasn't a personal problem for that human. And you are soul man and you kept the soul moment. You didn't hurt somebody else to make yourself better, right? Your win of being able to shift was not necessarily her loss. She also won. It was the win-win moment. And even though it was a loss of your seat and the way you planned to travel, you still ended up winning the moment. So I appreciate that you were a bubble. You didn't lose focus, Mr. Soulman himself.
Thank you. It was a definite challenge because it wasn't just, a rub here. It was literally over 12 different contacts. And I think the thing that made me just stay within that bubble was the fact that after the 12th contact, you'd figure somebody would have the politeness to just simply say, I'm really sorry I'm bumping you so much. But she didn't do that. And it's just like, that's just, that you're making contact with someone and that you've hit them. Just acknowledge it, be responsible, own it. And that probably, that would have probably made things a little bit easier for me. But the fact that she was just being focused so much on herself, and again, no judgment. She could have been going through hell on that plane. She might be terrified of flying. I didn't know. I didn't want to probe either. Her husband's sitting right there, So yeah, appreciate you, sis. And thank you for giving me the bubble to not lose my mind on a plane. Because normally I would have been fully triggered and just started speaking my mind.
I love that you're aware, right, guys? If nothing else, as a coach, hearing, hey, bubble moment. It's just, oh, Melissa ran through my head. Oop, I have to be aware and assess my reaction right now. That's a win. That's a win for me too, to hear he did it. He did it before we met too. I got to be honest, I'm not the sole reason he can be a bubble, but it's the terminology shifted once we met for sure. And it really comes back to remembering your why, not losing your focus as to why you got into action in the first place. What is the purpose of being here? Why are you moving on this planet? And what are you trying to really do? I can be a jerk if I want to be. I can. I'm really good at it because I grew up in a rough neighborhood. Like, you had to match energy. My family's huge. We're loud. Like, think Italians, but without the Italian part. All of the worst stereotypes ever in movies, just that we lived it. It wasn't a stereotype. It was Tuesday. But it's something that, while it's a skill set I do have, I don't like to harness it. Being kind, having people remember me as the person who watered their plant, not kicked it, stepped on it. I don't want to pluck somebody else's flower off the top. I mean, I try to pull people forward, even people who do what I do. I collaborate, like Felipe. He's here in the comments, right? We do the same job. We do it different. We're both coaches, though. We both help people with career transitions. We both do our thing, right? And we collaborate tomorrow on the show to help people learn about AI too. But genuinely, we could have never been friends if I said I can't be friends with other coaches. His success will ruin my success, right? I love this comment because it really is the people who get upset at somebody else having it, right? Like, well, why are and I told Felipe I was jealous of him one time, but I was honest about it. And I think there's a difference between being angry and lashing out and owning the moment. And I said, what do you mean you're writing a book, Felipe? I want to write a book about LinkedIn. I didn't know you were writing a book about LinkedIn. I want in. Why? What do you mean I can't? Well, because I verbalized my jealousy and I understood why I was jealous. I want to write about LinkedIn. It's a place I love to be. I was able to write about LinkedIn. Right. And so knowing our why, not losing the focus on who we want to be, not taking it out on Felipe that I'm not in the book, but just yelling, hey, I want to be in these books too, made this happen. Right. When I look at the back covers of the books, my friends are there with me because I verbalized it. And he pulled me forward. He could have easily said, stop being a jerk. No, be jealous. Sucks to be you. But he didn't. And guys, who in your circle pulls you forward? The other thing, hard one, and guys, this comes back to the emotional women too. I want to give it a plug, but how do you feel when somebody else wins? How do you react when you lose? Do you want to work on it? Because the emotional women can help you communicate those feelings to other people. That's the thing, right? Half of it is understanding why we feel the way we do and then assessing it and then being able to communicate it forward so we can work on it. And if you do it alone, guys, that's fine, but it's really hard to work all by yourself. It's hard to stay motivated by yourself, which is why it's really helpful to have coaches and friends and accountability partners to do the action thing. And guys, I got to tell you, I appreciate you coming. I want to hear from you. We're getting close to the point where I'm going to have to start wrapping up because I want to play my outro song. And I also have one more slide that I'm going to leave you guys with, and it's going to be an earworm. And I'm so sorry in advance. Also, happy Father's Day. Jay just said it, and I wanted to make sure I don't miss it too. Appreciate all those humans out there who are dads, stand-in dads, feeling that mentoring kind of thing. Maybe the neighbor who, the guy on YouTube who's like, hey, I'm not your dad, but here's the things your dad should have taught you, guy. Like, thank the guy in your life who's in that role for you, even if he's not biological. And if you do have a biological father, call them. It's the time. Tomorrow's the day. But Aaron, what's coming up for you? What are you feeling? Any feedback on what he said, and then we'll go back to Aaron.
That's your cue, Annie.
So, I'm always,
are you
I'm always
multitasking? Are you in 3 events again? Be honest.
No, I'm doing
2?
ChatGPT. No, I'm doing ChatGPT. So, but I'm all right. No, I think it doesn't help. Aaron, I think your reaction, your response. I think that's probably more the better word. It's responding rather than reacting. I think we always find a better choice of action when we choose not to get angry and get emotional and get all angry. Thankfully, I guess for me, I'm learning to be less angry about anything. You have to work so hard to really piss me off properly. And not many things get there anymore. When I was younger, believe you me, I was just an idiot, right? I would react to anything, and that's anything. The only thing I react to now is flies around me. I don't like flies. I can't stand flies. Right? I think the point I'm trying to make is know what ticks you off really, and even then, do your best. Do your best to respond in a calculated manner. And I don't think there's not many situations that call for us to be angry and respond and lash out and respond in a way that hurts others. There's no win, on a personal level, on an emotional level, on a social level. There's no win at all. I don't know. There's no winning. Win, you lose. I ruin your day. Or I ruin your experience. That's my personal take. I'm still human, by the way. So, some things do jump my brain, by the way. And so
listen, I expect it. I expect it, and if you follow any, actually, it's not just some things. Sometimes he gets petty Betty too. We all do. We're human. But something Aaron and I have talked about before is the Kim Kardashian approach to media, right? Chaos happens, and not everybody's happy. There's a lot of reasons people will get verbal about their life and what happens. And it could be a bad customer review. Kanye West in Kim's, just the name if Kim gets the mess, oh, Kanye posted about you. I mean, I could only imagine. And I'm not here to judge them, but as somebody who's been in a relationship, to go public with it and then to have every hiccup happen, and then there's a lot of hiccups there, if I'm being honest. Something that maintained success anyway for her was not engaging in the chaos. And chaos is fun, like Catch Careers, Chaos and Coaching Tomorrow. Sometimes it's warranted and it's planned and it's cool. But when somebody is trying to bring you into your chaos, having that Kim Kardashian approach to life, being a bubble, letting the world know, hey, it's none of your business. I'm here. Yes, I'm alive, but I don't have to engage in this. Sometimes it's good. And also, I guarantee you, Kim's lawyers are handling a lot of this stuff, even if she doesn't look like she is, right? And so there's other ways to move. If you feel like you're being attacked, you feel like there's something wrong, if you feel like you're not safe or you need to move, do that. If you feel like you've been hurt in some way, get assistance, right? There's ways to go about it, but be a bubble. Aaron, be a bubble. Kim Kardashian. Oh my gosh, I almost felt like
I love the
Saturday
bubble.
morning cartoons.
I love bubbles.
Oh, I felt like the hound dog guy. Okay. So, rest and success, I really think, is what I want to tell people, right? Sometimes when we win, we lose. And every time somebody wins, somebody else loses. Every Super Bowl win is a loss for somebody.
Absolutely. It's a bubble. It's a circle. It's coming back around, and coming back around to rest leads to self-reflection. That self-reflection then starts to rebuild your energy banks. You reflect on the things that you've learned to become wiser, smarter, more successful. It boils down to, it starts off, Melissa, and you do it so well, is it always starts off at your core, and a healthy conversation with your core, and establishing, like, who else has sat out there and literally written out their hard and soft boundaries on a list. #document and act. And then and then again, once you've written this stuff out, you can start to reflect on that and start to apply it to your world. And then to tie in with what Annie said is, when you start to realize what those things are, you start to recognize more quickly when you're feeling those triggers or feeling that something's rubbing you the wrong way. And you start to, rather than, again, have an emotional response, a good, healthy response to go, okay, how are we going to approach this without the emotions involved? How are we going to maintain that bubble? So shout out
Or
to you
bring the
both.
emotions, but keep them balanced, right? Because
Yeah.
as an emotional woman, I know that's not really a thing. We won't show them to others, but they always come. They're always here.
Well, and the big
And
thing too is it's a balance. There's no 100% time that when you're on a balance beam that it doesn't just move a little bit.
that's it. Constantly shifting. Everything, guys. It always is fluxing. Everything, right? And when we think about the shifts in the movement and the fact that the planet is currently moving, even if we all pause, hold our breath, and sit still, we are still moving. We don't get to control what happens around us, but we can control how we move in it, resting in our success of being in control, emotionally in control, being able to respond the way we want to, being able to say, hey, they hurt me, but I don't have to hurt back, right? The first time I ever didn't fight, somebody said bad words to me and I didn't meet them back with words. It was junior high. And I stood in my power and I just said, listen, if you're going to hit me, but if not, we're done here. And I don't condone violence. But in that moment, I was facing a bully who wanted us to fight. I was surrounded by people bigger than me. I had 3 ladies in front of me, ladies loosely being used, who wanted to engage in this kind of behavior, pack mentality. And this one person was very aggressively trying. The girls behind her were like slinging her arms, shoving her arms at me because she wasn't doing it. And I wouldn't engage unless she hit me first. It was a rule my mom had, like, don't fight, but if you have to, then you better not be the first one to swing. I was like, okay. So I'm standing there in my power, not swinging because I'm not allowed. And I know this. I'm in control. I'm using my words to say either do it or don't, but I'm not asking for it, so to speak. And even when others try to control the scenario, I know she's not acting, so I'm not going to act. And even when others are trying to engage the flames, I chose not to let them, right? And that's power for me. That is resting in the success of I am in control of myself in this moment. And that is a huge win, guys. And it could be the grocery store, it could be the red light, it could be the guy who cuts you off after you've been waiting 10 minutes for that space. Doesn't matter. How you respond in that moment says so much more about your success to me than the person who cuts you off. Because I've accidentally stepped in front of somebody not paying attention. I don't know about you guys, but I inadvertently, accidentally interrupt. Sometimes I get so excited I don't realize I was rude, but I am. That can happen by mistake. But the reaction, that's something we can control intentionally, right? Like how we react to somebody else's mistake, failure, what have you. And as a coach, I have to hold myself a little bit higher on the standards, a higher accountability, because if I am a mindset coach and I'm not holding myself responsible, how can I say I can hold others, right? Eating my own dog food is what Aaron calls it. I also have to tell you guys,
100%.
sometimes our loss is a new beginning, right? That they say when one door closes, the other opens. And I was trying to find a quote that was going to work. And I decided to leave you with two earworms. One is going to be the song that Aaron did for me, which I love so much. And the other is this. And Aaron, I think you're going to appreciate it. Okay, read it out loud for our friends.
Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
Closing time, Semisonic, guys. If you were in the 90s, this is a song that played on the radio all the time. And I thought it would be the perfect way to close the show because genuinely, every time there's a shift, it is the end of something and the beginning of something new. I'm a coach who loves to plant plants genuinely, growth coach, not just business, not just mindset, but plants, living, breathing things. And there are moments where these flowers come up, they bloom, they have seed, and then they disappear. And those seeds in the death of the plant are what recreate the plant again next time. It's the cycle. Ending one facet of my business created a ripple that created a new facet of business. The emotional women came out of me being emotional about life and things and people, and how sometimes things that came up in front of me created an emotion on my face. And then I got called emotional because I reacted to something right in front of me. All of this spoken publicly on the internet, no way it would have happened without the losses first that I opened up about. The loss of a fiance 3 days before the wedding, right? The fact that after that loss, I found a spouse anyway, and we recreated a relationship. We're going to be 18 years in August. There's emotions there, right? The ripple of losing businesses and ending up in a retail environment full of passion and fun, which is exactly what I coach on. So it brand aligns, but it was the rest space that allowed this to happen. 2 international best-selling books that I'm a part of with friends. We got the Careers, Chaos, and Coaching, which I didn't upload the photo this time. So sorry, Felipe. I know you can post our link in the comments here. But I do that with Felipe, the Careers, Chaos, and Coaching. We started an argument in one of these shows that I used to do in an audio event. And one of our friends said, hey, we love this. You should do this. This is the thing. And we are, and we do, and it helps. And there's a ripple there. And I have the time to do it because of all of the decisions that got me here, all the action that brought change and not losing focus on the things, right? I went through all of this, guys. These are seasons, these are reasons, these are intentions. These are the many hats I've worn to get to here. It's resting in success of knowing who I am and what I'm doing it for and why it matters. Guys, I appreciate you coming. I thank you so much. We're going to end the show with my song. I want to have enough time, but I do this every week, except next week I'm taking it off because I'm going to Jelly Roll and Post Malone, and I don't want to do it from the hotel. I really don't. No offense. It's a rest weekend, but I will be back fresh, ready to go in July. Okay. My producer here wanted to say YouTube. Go find my YouTube. Have you followed it yet? Yeah. It's in the comments too. Go find it. Go find it. Now we're out of here, guys. Thanks for coming. I will see you next week. Jam to the song. I love it so much. We'll see you.
Sunlight creeps through my window pane. Dreams of stars, now a faint refrain. Coffee brews and thoughts collide in this early morning ride. Wake up world, let's start the day. Insight flows in a bright array. Questions dance like morning dew. In this space, it's me and you. Coffee chat.